Let's kick this baby off. So first of all, thank you guys for joining. I know some areas have spring break going on. I know it's a little bit of a wacky week for some, but this was a really important session. It is being recorded as well, but more importantly, very timely for some of the things that people are trying to focus on in preparation for what might be coming. Without, creating the sky is falling, you either need to sharpen your both tools, your listing side of the toolbox and your buyer side of the toolbox. And we've brought on an expert that is long in the industry, and I want to kind of give him a little bit of a introduction, and he'll do some on his own. But today, together, we're going to kind of share advanced strategies to win more listings, and we're going to be doing it with Mark Choi. Mark has been instrumental in the industry of the real estate business from the West Coast, from the San Francisco market. As an agent himself, he was ranked, I think, number two in condo sales in all of his marketplace. And if you know that marketplace, it is huge as far as agent depth. Even more importantly, though, Mark was instrumental in building a company called Climb. And I remember Climb in my younger days, watching Climb become this unique culture, this thriving vibe. It was like a younger gen. It was very hip. And he grew that to such a large volume and capacity. It actually got acquired by Anywhere, which was a Realogy type company. So Mark was able to have his, call it, exit strategy to a large company that acquired them. And then he ventured out on his own into a few entrepreneurial strategies, one of them being Highnote, which is also very specialized in digital delivery. And today we're going to talk about a lot of Mark's strategies that helped him really be the leader in listings and differentiating yourself in listings. And in combination, he and myself, we're going to tag team on some of this. But first of all, welcome, Mark. Mark, thanks for joining us today, bud.
Oh, thank you. Good to see you. Good to see you.
Thanks.
And sorry it's so cold over there. I'm
Uh,
bummed.
yeah, and backstory, Mark is from New Jersey, though. He did start in New Jersey. He's a Rutgers guy,
I'm
which
a
is where we
rep-
connected. Mark's from East Coast, but did most of his business on the West Coast. So the goal today, Mark, is really kind of given those nuggets of things, because I've seen, I was a listing agent myself for many years, although we always worked with buyers at some point, but we were really good at getting listings. And I think there's a unique niche to it. And I think we could sharpen their toolbox a little bit today. So
Absolutely.
as you tie in some of your presentation, I'm going to try and jump in a little bit and sprinkle a little East Coast in there as well.
Good.
So
All right, guys. Thank you so much. It's been a crazy last few years, up and down, up and down. And it's really important to just keep focused and sharpen your toolbox, as Jeff says, because the cream always rises to the top. I started my brokerage climb during the Great Depression in 2008. I started selling real estate in 2006. So when the market collapsed during that time, we decided this is a perfect time to double down, because when we get out of it, when we get through it, we're going to be much stronger. And so that's the way everyone should feel now. And it's definitely not the sky. The sky isn't falling. Definitely not. It's just changing. So, but let's just get into it. All right. Who am I? I'm Mark Choi. I'm founder of Highnote, which is a software company specializing in next generation digital presentations. Our first niche is real estate. I'll show you a little bit about that later. I was co-founder of Climb Real Estate, as Jeff mentioned, a boutique independent brokerage in San Francisco Bay Area. We grew Climb to a top 250 brokerage in the US very fast, within about 5 to 6 years. And the world took notice, or at least the US took notice. And it was acquired by Realogy. And the idea was they were going to franchise Climb, make it one of their main brands, to be up there with Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, ERA, Better Homes and Garden. Those plans never went through.
yeah,
They decided to do Corcoran, right? Corcoran it is funny because we grew up envying Corcoran in New York, and Barbara Corcoran, big fan. We're a big fan, and Corcoran was the beast. So I don't mind that, Corcoran, Corcoran was the favorite to go, but it's all good. I had left Realogy before they decided to even franchise Climb.
Yeah.
And I was the number two condo agent in San Francisco for a number of years, and mostly because of the strategies, some of the strategies, and one of them I'm going to talk about today. And a lot of awards, New Guard Award, Most Powerful RE Leader, or one of them, and then Top Trendsetters, RIS, Reese Media, Newsmaker, etc. All right, let's let me give you some context. I was an agent just like you. As I told you, 2006, I got my license. And in 2010, I started a brokerage, Climb Real Estate. I got my license with KW, and it was the Red Book that I read. Everyone should be familiar with that Red Book if you haven't. What is it called again, Jeff? A millionaire real estate agent, I think it is.
Yeah, millionaire real estate agent. Yep.
Yeah, millionaire real estate agent. I think it's a great book, nothing to do with Keller, but it's just the fundamentals of a real estate agent's business. But anyway, I read it, and his whole thing, Gary Keller's whole thing, is about teams, making systems, making a system, thinking about yourself as a business. And that's when I got the idea, oh yeah, he's right. This is so true. You need to systematize everything. And so that's when we started Climb. That's me pretending to drag around an Airstream trailer. There's no way that smart car can haul that thing, but I was I was just parked next to it. This was our stunt to do open houses. That green building behind is a high rise. It's a 600 unit high rise building. And I lived there, and I did a lot of open houses there, and we rolled up our Airstream there during the open house time. And this was our first brokerage office location. It was in this dingy live work loft in Soma, south of Market, right near the ballpark, near Oracle Park, where the Giants play, San Francisco Giants play, and
Yeah.
also the Warriors play very close by. So this is where we started out, very humble beginnings. And I want to tell you that we won a lot of listings. And like I said before, number two condo agent, and I was invited to ring the bell or be part of the bell ringing ceremony at NASDAQ, the NASDAQ for Zillow. When Zillow went public, we were one of the few invited to join them. It was such an honor. And then, as I told you, we were top 250 in the US, grew the brokerage really fast, acquired by Realogy. And I'll tell you, we won a lot of listings, and we figured it out, at least for us. And we taught hundreds of agents how to win listings as well. And we continue to teach agents all around the country with this method, and it works. It works throughout the country. It doesn't matter where you are. So I'm gonna show you our method on what to do. All right. But before I get into that, Jeff, when you do your coach, do you talk about a sales funnel?
Yeah, we talk about the top of the sales funnel first. Obviously, is you got to you call it what you want, prospecting, call it building referral base, but it's got to start somewhere to bring in that lead source
Yeah.
to get to that top, right? That's one of the biggest things. That's the hardest part, I believe, is the
Yeah.
top of the funnel.
Yeah. And today, good. I'm glad you do. So, and today I'm going to talk about the bottom of the funnel,
Yep.
right? How to close them and how to convert these seller leads into actual sellers. And but we'll talk about each of these as we go here. But bottom line, the top, middle, bottom. Think of your business as a funnel. The top is visibility, awareness, authority for your brand. And the middle is capturing and nurturing these leads. And then the bottom is turning these leads into customers, right? Turning listing leads into listings.
Now, Mark, I'll be curious, while you're doing this, I would love to hear from the audience where they feel they struggle the most in this funnel. So while you're talking through it, for those listening, where's your biggest challenge? Top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, or getting them to convert, right? I'd be curious. Put it in chat. We'll be watching chat.
Yeah, let's see.
So I think if I had to be a guess, I'm going to probably say top of funnel, but I think there's a big weakness at the bottom in that conversion phase. In that,
Absolutely.
how do I differentiate? And that's really
Absolutely. And here's what we looked at. The way we thought about it, was you get a lot of leads, right? And these leads are are worth, quite a bit of money, especially in areas with higher price points. But if you just take a $500,000 price point, average price point, that lead is potentially $10,000. So we kind of looked at it that way, that, oh my God, this lead that's here is potentially worth 10,000. And guess what? All these hundreds of other leads, or dozens of other leads, or thousands of other leads, whatever your lead volume is, they're each worth $10,000, right? And in San Francisco, our average price point was $1 million.
Hmm.
So each of those leads were $20,000,
Yeah.
right? So it really puts things in perspective. Like, what? If I don't convert this lead, I could potentially lose $20,000.
Yeah.
That's the way we looked at it. And so then we said, oh my God, if that's true, which it is true, then we really should focus on converting these leads as much as possible. And the other reason why we thought that way was because these leads amount to other business. They amount to more top of funnel, more middle of funnel business, right?
Yep.
That really starts growing exponentially as you start building your book of business, right? In the beginning, top of funnel is the hardest, right? Because like, how do you have the money to do the marketing to generate this business? And nobody knows who you are, right? So you got to build this playbook up where you get customers that are referring, happy customers that are referring you business because their neighbor or their friend or their brother or sister or, classmate or whatever, a schoolmate, is saying, hey, do you know an agent? And like, yes, I loved my agent. I worked with this guy or girl or woman and man, and it's like, yeah, I love them, and this is who you should work with. And though that business is the easiest business on earth, referrals, right? So you got to build in order to grow your business and to be really successful, you have to get out of the cold lead business and get really warm and hot leads. And the only way you can do that is by having a lot of customers, a lot of clients, former clients. So again, top of funnel, advertising, social media, networking, A-frames, open houses, and farming, right? Farming is a form
Sure.
of it. All these things. There's probably 15 other things, but these are the main ones. And then middle of funnel, right? Farming. If you think about farming, you actually have the lead and you're
Yep.
nurturing, right?
Yep.
They don't know who you are, but over time you build a relationship. Newsletters, property management. Some people manage properties as a way to nurture these leads. Open house lead capture. When you have an open house, hey, let me get your information. I'll send you, market updates or I'll send you my favorite recipes. and and then educational sessions, like running a session on property taxes or running a session on zoning changes or neighborhood change, whatever it might be, to get in front of customers and land. What other ideas are there, Jeff, that I might be missing here or
I
thinking
think,
about?
I think the core, the core functionality is always here. It's always about the execution of it. So like when we say, oh, we open houses, I think there's just so many that lack now I could take 3 hours and circle prospect with the right scripting to actually generate more listing leads from that open house.
Yeah.
So it's not even the concept, because we can say open house lead capture and we could say farming. The question always comes down to the discipline. Am I doing it consistently? Do I have a really good message, or does it look like everybody else's message? Do I have a good call to action? And then am I actually doing it? So I think those are all valid points. To me, it always falls short of the execution and then constantly tweaking it. And I find so many people go, oh, Jeff, I do that already. Okay, tell me what you do. And when we start to find out that farming isn't like sending something out once every 6 months, and it's the cookie cutter postcard that everyone else is sending out. So while you're going through emotion, it's not effective. And
Right.
we have to get really effective. So I find your stuff is extremely valid. It's then the level of execution, which we'll try and focus on.
Right. Okay, thanks. And then the bottom of the funnel. And really, this is listing appointments.
Yeah.
And now you have a lead. How do you turn this into, they want to meet, they want to sell their home. How do you win this listing? So I want to talk about this. And, in the beginning, when we first started, we were the little funnel on the left side.
Yep.
And there were dozens of bigger funnels. And why were they bigger? Well, they've been around in the market for a long time. They were top agents in the area, right? They're around for decades. They were more experienced and perhaps the most experienced, right?
Yep.
So if you're a seller, who are you going to go with, right? You're going to go with the most experienced person in general, if you had to choose. Um, and we also weren't around for a century. We're new. We were new to the market. So we were this little funnel. And so if you think of it even more like that in that framework, then every lead is so important, right? Because you get much fewer leads. So we really took this model of scarcity. We took this model of making the best of every single opportunity you have, doing everything you can to close every single business so that you can eventually become the big funnel.
Yep.
And not eventually, but fast, right? And you don't want to work harder, you want to work smarter. So you got to grow up this big funnel, and the funnel's got to be quality referral business. So you got to get there though. But so the way we looked at it, we were always at a disadvantage, right? We were new and we're always at a disadvantage. And I think I credit being raised in New Jersey for this mentality, Jeff.
Yeah.
I think Jersey people are very different when I meet them, and everyone has the same kind of feeling. Like, you grew up next to New York or Philadelphia, and so everything's about New York and Philadelphia, right? And you're just trying to get noticed in a way, or you always want to be part of that sort of because it's dominated by the media of those cities. And Jersey is kind of always, I don't want to say left out, but definitely not thought of as the place to go. Like
Well,
no
I
one
think
wants to play for the New Jersey Nets, or, and then they want but Brooklyn Nets are kind of cool, but no one wants to play for New Jersey, right? And even the football teams, New York Jets and the Giants, they play in Jersey.
playing
Those are
Jersey.
New Jersey teams.
They won't give us credit for that. But I think it's always, I was always brought up too from a sales perspective, though, always a little bit on the scrappier side of things, always willing to hustle and outgrind anybody else. And that
That's right.
becomes a culture. It's hard to teach that. You have to be willing to just make 5 more calls, go on 2 more appointments, because being the underdog is a huge advantage sometimes. You have a big upside. You just have to grind it out harder than them. And when you were talking about the experienced ones, I remember like when I was starting out too, I had to compete with people that had 25 years experience on me. I just had to be better at what they did and outwork them and just do a better job with the customer to beat their business.
That's right.
And it works.
That's right. It's just hustle, the hustle. So
100%.
and like I said, we focus on listing conversions once we had that funnel built, and because we knew that growing that number of listings was exponential. And our conversions of the listings were the best. And I'm going to show you what we did. This is what we did. We had the best presentation system, right? And is a conversion system, listing conversion system, listing presentation system. We can't figure out the right words for it, but it's really a whole system that we had in converting listing leads. And it's a very simple system that I want to share with you. And most people don't do it. And they don't do it, or most agents don't do it because they feel like it's either laziness, or they feel like they don't have to, or they just want to be, they're not really trying hard for it. I'm not sure what it is. It could be all those things. But if you do those little things to just get yourself up one more level, your saw is that much sharper, right? You are that much better, and you're gonna rise to the top if you do these great things. Now, before I get into it, I'm going to talk about the listing appointment. This is how every listing appointment, most of them happen. The seller finds you, right? There's an initial email or phone call, and then there's an in-person meeting, and that's the listing appointment meeting. And there's a follow-up, right, after the listing appointment, and then a close. Okay. Now, what a lot of people don't do is they don't send a pre-listing presentation. And so what we're recommending and what we always have done is we sent a great pre-listing presentation, and we sent it digitally. And you could also send one physically,
Yep.
but print one, yeah, or drop it off or whatever, drop off or print one, whatever. But you always should send one digitally. And I'm going to tell you why in a little bit. But then we also always did this. We sent another stunning digital follow-up listing presentation. And what and why would you do? Well, you know, if they're on the fence after a listing appointment, let's say it's close between you and two other horses, you know, two other agents, and you're very close. Well, you need to do everything you can to win that. And very often the one that does the best job at follow-up, you know, and the most thorough job at follow-up is going to win. And you know, so we always recommend, well, why leave it to chance? Why put it in just a plain text email? Make a great presentation out of this. And so we built tools to streamline this process so that you can build something fantastic and beautiful right away. And that's what Highnote is. But I'm going to show you kind of what goes into these pre-listing presentations, what goes into the follow-up listing presentation. We're also going to talk about the things you should talk about after the NAR settlement, assuming that that gets implemented in July, which we're not sure if it will. But we're going to talk about each of these sections. Now, so bottom line is we bookended the appointment with a stunning and standout experience before and after to really blow the competition out of the water and be like, oh my God, you are the only one that sent us something so great. And we hear that time and time again from not only our own experience, but our customers, Highnote customers who do this with Highnote. And they often win things just on that presentation alone, right?
Mhm.
It's not always going to be the case. Were you saying something, Jeff? Sorry.
No, you still have to have your personality. You still have to have your good, you know, effective questions. You still got to do a good listing presentation, but the book ending, I think, is where most people don't do,
Yeah,
or they do it in a really weak format
that's
that
right.
puts them at a disadvantage for somebody that might be doing it.
That's right. And so what we're saying is, look, in order to win in anything, right? And especially real estate, you need to stand out. You need to be different. You need to be better, right? Than the competition. And there's very simple ways that agents I feel could be better and don't. When every time we do a session like this, well, let me ask everyone: how many people send a pre-listing presentation before a listing appointment, or you know, or you know, just mention in you know, put in the chat, or say if you do or don't. That would be great to see.
Either
But
way,
every time we do these.
do.
Um,
Kathy does. Yep. Good.
yep. Every time we do these sessions, about 10% do a pre-listing presentation. And the ones that do aren't happy with them, right?
Yep.
They feel like there could be better,
Yep.
right?
So
Uh,
it's creative agents. Excellent.
cool. Yep. Cool.
And
Now,
I'd be curious, are we sending them also? Because it's important to know. And either way, is it print or digital or both? Just curious too, because everyone's got their own style that works for them, right? There's no exact right or wrong way here. It's what's working for you, right?
yep,
So digital, good. We got some digital, excellent.
good.
They can print, but they're intended to be sent digital, excellent,
Great.
good. And I'm
Great.
going to assume the others maybe not so much. So maybe the ones that didn't say much.
Yeah. I assume if you didn't answer, good. Fantastic. So, all right, this is the incredible pre-listing presentation. And if you do send one, rate it from 1 to 10. Is it great? Is it a 10? Right? So the point is that you got to send a 10, right? And you know, if you don't have a 10, send it. Make it upgrade it. Send it so it's a 10. And here's something what I would consider a 10. This is a just really stunning pre-listing presentation. And it talks about the agent first. And why do you do that, right? Well, you know, they don't know who you are yet. So, and let me go back to this slide. I'm gonna go back to this, but you want to stand out. The reason why you're sending this is you want to stand out, right, ahead of time. And you want to be the one that sends the best one, you know, and you know why? Because you can send the best one, right? You can't be the one that has the most experience. You can't be the one that has many more years of experience or the most 5-star reviews, unless you already do. But you can't make up for that. But you can make up for your presentation. It's a very simple thing to do.
Yep.
But just some bullet points about this. You should start building an emotional connection to why you. Sellers are human. They're not going to pick you based on credentials solely, right? They're
Yeah.
going to pick you based on trust and whether they like you. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think here too, because look, decisions are made based on emotional connections. And people say, well, I got to get people to like and trust me. That's an emotional connection. Like and trust is emotional. So you always have to look at your presentation and say, what am I doing in here to connect at an emotional level? It could be also one of your things could be maybe you're a big dog lover and maybe you're really big on this, or you have a hobby that's really, contributing to the community. Like those things matter to people that show you're not just a great real estate agent, but you have a connective human personality behind it. So think emotionally when you're building this out.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's funny when you say the dogs things. We used to have we had agent pages, right? Obviously, like every brokerage did. We also had one for dogs.
Yeah.
And we also had one for kids too. And so like the agent's kids, the agent's dogs. So it's true. And it's an emotional connection you're trying to build, right? Now, in this pre-listing presentation, you should also lay out the basics. Set up the in-person meeting to be successful. And what are the basics? I'm going to go over all the sections. But the whole point is you want to make your in-person meeting much more effective. And it's much more effective if they know a little bit about you beforehand, right? Now, of course, they may know you from finding you online, and they may have gotten a referral, or they may have heard about you or read your reviews. But you want to talk about formally, like who you are, where you're from, why you're so great, right? And why you would be the perfect agent for them, and lay all those basics out so that when you're in person, you can delve and spend more time into other things like why they're selling, what's their home like, upgrades to their home, the condition of the home, and what they expect, and answer all the questions that they may have about you and what you would do to get the best price for the home. So, and very often a great pre-listing can win the listing before the listing appointment, right? If you send a great one out that blows the competition out of the water, you can win it before the listing appointment. And just showing up at the listing appointment is often just a formality, signing documents, like, hey, just making sure you're human, right? And then signing the listing agreement and winning and getting all right there. We've had many agents who when they send something like this, say they win and they're just blown away by this technique. Go ahead, Jeff. What are you gonna say?
I think a good pre-listed, I think you could measure a good pre-listing presentation should be they almost feel like they know you when you walk in the door.
That's right.
You almost want them to feel like they know you enough about you when you walk in the door versus
Exactly.
walking in, right? That's the way to measure.
Exactly. And one of the best ways to do that is with video, right? So let me show you this video.
I'm Chris Lim, and I'm the founder of Climb Real Estate. I don't know what my favorite neighborhood is in the Bay Area. There's just too many to choose from. I guess it's whatever one I'm in. My favorite vacation spot is anywhere I can ski.
See, so he's building an emotional connection, really trying to talk about himself as an agent or a person, and then really trying to find connection, right? Now, it doesn't have to be so produced as this one is, right? And I think better to be raw in some ways, right? Better to be more just shooting into your phone and, hey, I'm looking forward to meeting with you. I've been in the area a long time. I've done this and this and this, and here's a little bit about all my experience and why I feel like I'm the best agent for this job. But, so again, you talk about yourself, right? And you talk about your team, right? And you talk about your brokerage. Now, if you don't have a team, make one. You got to have a team, right? If you're at a brokerage, you have a team, right? They may not be formally on a team, but your broker, your marketing manager, your front door receptionist, everyone there is on your team, right? And really just call yourself on a team and put that together, right? Talk about a brokerage. Why your brokerage? What makes you special, right? Find those things that make your brokerage special. And then highlight some unique services that you do, right? Don't say things like, I put things in the MLS or I do open houses, right? You got to talk about unique things that you do. And so in-house interior design team, right? Like we had an interior designer on staff who would come give estimates all the time. And that designer is really like a stager, a glorified stager, but can do design too. But anyway, it was someone that was on staff that could come and give advice, complimentary. And then, include properties that are just like the home that you have experienced selling, right? So find those properties that you can connect the seller's home with your experience, right? Like especially if it's the same type or in the same neighborhood, show that, obviously, right? If you don't have it, obviously, you can't show anything, but try to find some maybe at your brokerage, maybe talk to a colleague and ask for permission to show this, or maybe ask the broker, can I show some of these past solds, etc. And then you want to validate that you know the area, right? Say, oh, my brokerage knows this area, right? And they want to make sure you're not an out-of-towner and out of town or out of area person. And other reason why you want to do this is because sometimes agents are out of town or out of the area and they're not familiar with the area. So you emphasizing that you know the area will immediately put you ahead and the others behind, right? Then start giving value, start providing informational stuff like marketing timeline. Here's the marketing timeline: step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. And then we always did public record search, right? Show tax report, maybe title report, or maybe show property tax records. Show something that they may not have seen before. And the other reason why you want to do this is because you want to confirm the owners, right? That's not it, but you want to confirm who the owners are. You want to confirm that there's like, oh, it's owned by maybe 3 people or 2 people, and and if you're only speaking to one of them, you got to make sure you're speaking to the other 2. And you want to also confirm other things like tax records, square footage, legal bedrooms and baths, zoning, any other issues that might be there that you want to talk about, how much is on the loan, etc. Now, you also want to talk about after an offer is accepted. Okay, after we get an offer on the property, this is what happens. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4. So that it's clear to them, how a home sale works. People don't sell their homes every day. I think the average person sells a home 3 times in their lives. And if that, right? So it's a very new process for them. And what's the value of the home? They're always wanting to know. And don't do this. Don't send it ahead of time. Don't send the value of the home ahead of time. I'll tell you why. It rarely works out well in my experience. What if you're wrong?
Yeah.
What if you're wrong? What if you're low? Too low? That's the worst. You say, you're looking at a home that's $1 million and you say it's worth $950. You immediately shot yourself in the foot. Immediately shot yourself in the foot. Not every seller is going to say, well, they haven't seen the home yet and give you a benefit of the doubt. No. They want to hear who's going to give them the highest price, right? Within reason, obviously, right? So never send the value of the home beforehand. I've done this mistake many times, or made the mistake many times, and everyone still does it. And I see no benefit sending it ahead of time. You want to build a relationship first. Not only that, you also want to understand who the seller, like what the seller thinks their home is worth. And you want to see the condition of the home, right? How does it show? As you know, a home that shows better sells better. And so you want to see that. You want to see the view. You want to see the location of the neighborhood, etc. Now, the other important thing that you should do is send a listing agreement. And why? This is called a presumptive close. You are showing confidence by sending the listing agreement. Like, hey, I'm ready to meet you. And by the way, we're gonna have to sign this listing agreement to move forward, right? And if you send it in a program, an advanced smart presentation program like Highnote, like the one we built, we tell you if they're reading this. So, we give you analytics and notifications, whether they're reading it, how long they're reading this for. All right. And how many pages? So, if you have a digital presence, great, but you should also deliver it in a system that gives you notifications and analytics on what exactly is being read. And that's what we built as well. And that's my product here. Okay. Now testimonials.
hang on. I think there's a lot of valuable information when you could see someone clicked on this and they read that listing agreement for like 10 minutes and they scrolled through like 7 pages, and that like you see that they're definitely looking and questioning something. So when you're there, you're more prepared to answer those things.
Absolutely. And we that's the other reason why we say to send this is you get the analytics on it. You see, are they reading it? If they're reading the listing agreement and spending some time in it, guess what? You almost have a done deal, right?
Yep.
You almost have a done deal, right? If they're not, if they're just going through other things or checking out your properties or checking out your testimonials, then what are they telling you? Well, that's saying that they don't know who you are yet, right? They don't know who you are, and you have some work to do at the listing appointment. So anyway,
Did you freeze?
the rest of this pre-listing is my testimonials. What'd you say?
I thought you froze up for a second. Sorry.
Oh, I don't know. But you want to show your testimonials, and then again, why you, right? So this presentation, every presentation should tell a story. The pre-listing tells the story of why this agent. It starts with the agent, builds it up, builds an emotional connection with the video, team, brokerage, why the brokerage, what are your unique services, show that you know the area and that property. Here's how selling works. Here's a little bit about your property, the value. When I meet you and walk the home and understand what you think of it, you know, and I've got to think about it too and do some comp research. I'll give you a valuation after. Here's what we need to move forward, and here are my testimonials, and then me. Right.
Yep.
Now, you send something like this, you set up. You're set up for either winning the listing before you meet, or if you still have work to do, when you meet, you have a head start, and a head start above and beyond, you know, in front of the other agents. So you really got to think of it that way.
Yep.
How do you set yourself up for success? What were you saying, Jeff?
I think it's you know, there's a lot of detail in there, and for those that struggle that might not have the team, I know you mentioned it, but you know, your title partners, your mortgage partners, if you don't have a stager, but maybe you have a couple landscapers that do spring cleanups or spruce up a house, like think about your creatives that are not, you're not paying them directly, but you can make an extension of your relationships.
Absolutely.
And
Your
show that
transaction
you've got
coordinator,
connections to help
right?
them. Maybe you got a painter that can spruce up the house. You know, put that together. That shows you have resources.
That's right. Your spouse, you know, anyone that you could be on their team, right? On a doesn't have to be a formal team. You know, it's like if you send a lot of business to a lender, he's part of your lending team, right?
Yep.
If you have a favorite escrow person, absolutely, right? Or title person, put them together. So, all right. The other thing that you got to address, you know, maybe now or after, right? Or during the meeting is the NAR lawsuits settlement. And let's talk about this really quickly. I just want to kind of throw it in here since it's the right time. Now, as everyone knows, the NAR settlement, it's a 100-page proposed settlement, $418 million judgment against NAR. A lot of parties have been released after the settlement, but not everyone. So brokerages less than 2 billion in sales in 2022 are all going to be released. Anyone above, they're not, and presumably because they want to chase after them for more money and more damages. The association-owned MLSs are released. There's a lot of people who are going to be released from those lawsuits if the settlement's accepted. And let me talk about implications. You know, a couple of things is the compensation to the buyer agent is not going to be shown in the MLS anymore.
Yep.
And you know, why are they doing that, right? They bottom line is it's a bundling issue, right? And I'll talk about that a little bit more. And then a buyer broker agreement.
Yep.
Will need to be signed. Now, some agents say, well, I already do that. That's perfect. You're ahead of the curve. And a lot of agents don't. I never did personally when I started out, right? And but going forward, you're going to have to. And I think it's just a good practice anyway to do it. And So those are the main things that came out of this this settlement. Now, what's the whole point? Well, they want to unbundle commission because the Department of Justice is suing because they feel like it's antitrust violation. Bottom line, they feel like commissions are too high, and the way it's bundled, quote unquote, listed in the MLS, the way it is, does not create an environment for choice, right? The buyer agent rarely gets to negotiate this. Why? Guess because they don't pay. If they don't pay, why would they care about negotiating this buyer commission, right? The other problem is it looks bad. It looks like the seller agent, right, is in cahoots with the buyer agent from an institutional level, right? Because it's done in the MLS. So it's always listed there as a compensation from the seller agent to the buyer. Department of Justice doesn't like this. It's kind of like, do you remember when Microsoft was sued?
For Explorer? Was it for Explorer?
Yeah, bundling Explorer, Internet Explorer with Windows. And they were like, well, you can, like they didn't like that, right? They didn't like Netscape brought the suit because of like Netscape, if you have IE included with Windows already, why are you gonna go get another browser? Right? And so that was the issue, right? That was the main issue. They don't like the fact that you're bundling it together. And that's why these are the main things that are really being attacked. Now, but by not bundling it and you're leaving it open, what happens is it opens up who and how much commission is paid to the buyer agent, right? And so now it's going to be free for all. Buyer agents can get it from the buyers. They could also, but it doesn't change, who pays. I mean,
right. Yeah, they can still get it.
Right. And yeah, the seller can still pay the buyer agent. And I think every good listing agent should still convince the seller to do it to remain competitive. And the listing brokerage can still pay the buyer agent. So you could still negotiate a 5% or 6% and then still say you're going to split it. Right. That's a current thinking. Now, but I think they're going to have multiple models come up. And the reason why you need to address this now is because everyone's reading the news, and the news articles are the worst. These titles, the headlines, they're so unnuanced, and they just say things like, NAR lawsuit, 6% is no longer the 6%, or prices are going to drop because commissions are going to be reduced. This is not necessarily true, right? And it doesn't necessarily mean that commissions are going to drop. They will, obviously, because now buyer agent commissions are going to be negotiable, but in a lot of cases, it's going to be the same, right? Same or anything. And but there's a lot of confusion out there. So you need to address the elephant in the room immediately. And because you don't want to be at a disadvantage. And I argue, you don't want your listing to be at a disadvantage, especially if they're going to be a pain in the butt about not wanting to pay the buyer agent, right? Anyway, what do you think about this, Jeff? What's
I think there's going to be I think there's unfortunately a lot of confusion, but for the most part, if you're good at negotiating and have the skill, you're going to negotiate listings. Listings always controlled the market because it's a catalyst for lead sources, right? So listings always, the buyer side of things, there's definitely going to be some weaker buyer's agents that are not going to be able to negotiate. They're not going to be able to get them to sign an agreement. And then we're going to find some that go directly to the listing agent themselves, thinking they're going to bypass. And it's the listing agent then has to be sharp enough to now be able to navigate through that buy side because you need representation. So either way, you still, to me, control the listings. The buy sides are always going to be there. We'll have to get sharper in a separate session for that. But this is about, let's focus on being able to explain, especially when they think they're circumventing a buyer's agent by coming to the listing agent direct. Right. And they're really not circumventing anything. They think they're circumventing a price or something else. Right. So we have to be prepared as a listing agent for that.
Perfect. All right. Now, so let me move forward. Now, back to the pre-listing, right? So that's one of the sections you should really address. Now, what we used to say, an average agent, what do they do with the pre-listing presentation? Well, they usually don't send one, right? So they'll send something like this, an email full of attachments. And guess what? It's a terrible reading experience. It's a terrible reading experience. And they don't like reading it. And very often, not everything's getting read. Not only that, when you send it this way, you don't know if they even read it or not. So you need to use specialized software to send stuff, proposal presentation software. Now, what would make a better impression? Something like this or something like this, right? Where you are clearly putting some effort into winning this listing. Put some effort into winning the listing, right? Be a professional is what we used to always say. And you're going to stand out. And if this wins you one more listing a year,
no brainer.
I think that's worth it, right? And so you're going to win many more than just one. And we always felt like we needed every tool, every advantage to our side. You need to drive a nicer car. You need to have a nicer suit. You need to look better. Your presentation needs to be better. Your marketing needs to be better. Your market knowledge needs to be better. Your ethics need to be higher. Your negotiation skills need to be higher. Your network needs to be bigger. Every single part of you as an agent in a real estate business needs to be better, right? And you always need to increase it and always be better. Stay ahead of the competition to win. Now, all right, you have the in-person meeting, the listing appointment, okay? Now, there's questions, right? What happens at these things? There's questions. They're questioning you. They're questioning your methods, maybe their experience level. They're up, they're talking with 3 other agents, right? Now, they also want to see what you think of the home, what you think of what upgrades need to be made. What do you think the value of the home is? And again, refrain from saying the value here at this moment. You might think, oh my God, this is obviously a 750 house. Or a house worth 1.5. Because why? Because there's like 3 other homes that sold around the area. But refrain from doing it. I've also done this before where I've shot my mouth off like, oh, I know this thing is a $2 million listing. And I was wrong. Or he thought it was worth more. Or he wanted to see if you were going to give. And then I go back and do the comps. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't see this one. I didn't realize this one. Right? So you really want to be careful in giving it now. Okay, even if you think you know it, right? Just wait and do the analysis and come back, right? Now, what you should do is if you're on the fence, if you're up against 2 other people or 3 other people, and you don't feel like you really nailed it at the listing appointment, which you should have, right? Or at the pre-listing appointment, follow up with another great listing presentation and you go for it, right? And the perfect follow-up presentation, right? You want to close with a great one. And in this presentation, you want to address all the concerns in the presentation. And you don't want to just do comps, right? You want to do a comprehensive broker price opinion. I'm going to give you my opinion of your value of your home, not just run comps, right? You want to give value also by making smart recommendations in your presentation. And don't forget, every presentation tells a story. So you want to end it with why you. And let me show you all the sections in here. And by the way, at the end of this, I have a QR code that you're going to scan and you're going to get a download of all this information. So I'm going to just hang with me. I'm going to give you that QR code in a second. Listing presentation, the follow-up. All right. I walk through your home with you, and these are the pros and cons I noticed about your home. Recommendations, strategy, right? Since you'll be living in your home, have not identified a replacement property, et cetera. I recommend this strategy or that strategy, et cetera. In this case, it was a strictly off-market strategy until you found the home. Target demographic. Who's a typical buyer for your home, right? Timing, right? Is this a good time to come, right? April is a great time to come on the market. December, not so great. And then your broker price opinion evaluation. Insert your comps, insert your spreadsheets, insert your MLS tables, insert your cloud CMA, whatever CMA tool you use.
Yep.
But, add it in here. And, we suggest breaking it up. Neighborhood sales, recent sales, most relevant comp. Here's the baseline comp. Why? Because it's the section they care about the most. So really break this out. Go for it, right? Make it detailed. Make it comprehensive. Make it so it's better than what others are sending. Guess what others are sending? They just print out a bunch of comps, 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, half a mile radius around your house.
Yep.
Gee, thanks. Anybody could do that. Anybody could do that. Put some analysis and work into it and lay it out, right? What's at stake is thousands of dollars, right? So go above and beyond in every way possible. Online property values. Show what Zillow says the home is worth. Redfin, right? Etc. Dangers of overpricing. I know it's really tempting to want to go for that $2 million number. But you know what? I'll tell you why it's bad to overprice. 1.9 is probably the value of your home. You should price it at 1.89, right? Not 2 million, for example, right? Sales and marketing calendar. Here are the next steps. After you sign week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, what do we do? Importance of disclosure, right? Whatever the hot ticket is in your area, really want to talk about it. And reasons why your home isn't selling, right? And you want to highlight these things ahead of time so that they don't make the same mistakes that a lot of sellers do by being cheap on things like staging, painting, and overpricing their home.
Yeah.
Jeff, you were about to say something?
Yeah, no, I think, there's a lot of people that do a one-step presentation. I was always a two-stepper where I would go to the home, kind of build rapport, come back out. And in order to deflect the one person that walks in with comps and everything already, and they were trying to get it closed in one step, I would always say when I was sitting down at the table and they would say, well, like, well, do you have a price for us or do you have a price range for us? I say, well, I will. Part of what I did today is there's no way I could put together a price for your home until I actually saw it. The upgrades you've done, the things, and I would say, here's how I would spin it. And in defense, anybody that shows up to your home on their first appointment and has a value for your home never really took into effect all of the value you really have. There's no way someone can determine that value without seeing it.
That's right.
And I was kind of setting up the person that went in with the one, oh, here's my CMA, here's what your home is worth. So I was always deflecting, saying I would feel really cautious of anybody that walked in the door. So
That's
I'm
right.
going to do my homework now, and I'll be back in 2 or 3 days.
That's right.
To give you a full evaluation. Yeah.
That's right. That's perfect. And it's in a way you're kind of, you're like not insulting, but you're like putting them the ones that do bring them like, hey, how could you possibly give comps when you haven't even seen the home?
I haven't even seen the home. How do you know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're giving me generic.
Yeah. Not every home is generic, right? So, okay. And then summary of my recommendations, wrap it all up, sample listing agreement, give the listing agreement again. Okay, we're ready to go. And my team, don't forget my team and my testimonials. And again, why me?
Yeah.
Right. So it's the two-stepper, right? The one we call it the 1-2 punch, right? But do it with stunning presentation. Now, let's go through this. Again, why would you do this? You have nothing to lose except thousands of dollars, right? Why would you not take this extra step? Now, Highnote. This is like a semi-advertisement, but you should send your presentation with a tool that can analyze all the results, but also help you build these presentations better. And that's why, Highnote also has these analytics that tell you exactly every section they're reading and how long. And then we use these, we have templates, drag and drop to build these things. It's a stunning reader experience. And then the tracking again. And we built this specially for listing presentations, but there's a lot of use cases throughout many industries. Anyway, that's enough advertisement. This is the QR code. Now you could download this, enter your email. You're going to get everything that I had in here. The diagrams of the listing presentations, the pre-listing and the follow-up listing presentation, plus 30 tips on what you should be doing in your listing presentations. And, I hope it's helpful. And let's see here. What else I'm going to say? Yeah, 30 tips on how to win listings, including, how to win listings before your appointment. We talked about it, but really I'll give you a lot more detail in there. And how to make sure your listing appointment is successful, right? And part of that is the prep work you do. The prep work, right?
Yep.
And how to seal the deal when sellers are on the fence. Every problem that every agent has. The more you do ahead of time, the easier it will be to close later. And so that's part of the reason why a lot of agents, today maybe don't do a lot because they're busy, right? Yeah. But if you pay it forward and do a lot of the stuff ahead of time, you're going to win many more deals.
Other than the CMA though, most of this, once you do it once, it's already done for you. Like it's done.
That's right.
You're not changing and creating one for each customer other than plugging in one or two unique pieces of some comps or something else. So you
Right.
have the template, you already create all your value proposition in there. And then you just, if you want to customize it, drop in the customization stuff.
Right.
We use it as well for a lot of stuff that we do too, for coaching and speaking. And but the same thing to me, the values in the data. It's exciting to see when people click on three things and they didn't bother to click on the other two, to know what was their level of interest. And for you, it could be like your video virtual tour, or your Matterport tour, or they clicked on the drone video 5 times. You're like, oh, wow, they might be really into checking out the drone footage.
That's
So
right.
you're getting the intel before you show up, which is a huge value to me. So data is really good that way.
Yeah. And, you know, you could always get a demo or try it as a free trial on our website on highnote.io. But, you know, again, it just works wonders for your business. But again, you don't have to send a pre-listing out or a follow-up listing presentation out with Highnote, but it sure makes it a lot easier
Sure.
to build and do. And so anyway, but
And
here,
then-
Don, any other questions? Any questions?
I'm gonna
Jeff, you
Yeah,
want to take
questions. See if there's any questions in the chat. And while we're waiting for some questions too, I know you can use this thing for so many other things, like, you know, after a closing, here's all the things you need to do. And then maybe for the buyers, for a buyer presentation, which I'm sure you've already worked on, is what do you do for a buyer presentation when you need to do a buyer consult? That stuff is already in the hopper. But today we wanted to keep it specifically on listings, but the same kind of model for buyer consults. And we are going to have some very serious buyer consults selling our value of, here's some reviews and here's some of the homes that I've closed, and you're going to have to build that up as well.
Yep, that's right. And we actually have buyer presentation templates as well. And I'll tell you, it's very similar to the pre-listing presentation, right? It's a pre-buyer presentation, pre-buyer consult presentation, right?
Yeah.
And it's very similar. There's some sections in here that you need to change, but what won't change are these things. Get to know me, a video, my team, my brokerage. Why my brokerage, right? But you want to start talking about neighborhoods. You want to talk about the buying process. You want to talk about your experience in helping buyers in the area. And you also want to talk about the timelines. You're not going to put in things like tax records, obviously, offer, right? You want to talk about the buyer broker agreement.
You can put in your RPR report. You got RPR. If you use that custom report for a market trend report, you can plug it in there.
Yeah, market reports, where the market's trending. You know, you should put in things like your lender resources, you know, inspection resources, and really talking about your services. And you're going to need to talk about buyer broker agreement and how, and this is going to be different in every area. And it's really tricky because, you know, what happens, you know, a lot of buyers don't pay for buyer. I mean, all buyers don't pay for buyer agents today. How are you going to tell a buyer they need to pay? You may need to pay for my commission.
Right.
Yeah.
There's
going to be a lot of pushback in this industry, a lot of pushback. And
100%.
yeah, and you're going to find.
We're doing a bit of a training on that, not to segue too much, but we're going to be doing, besides, if you don't mind, if you can unshare your screen for a sec, I'm going to show some. So for this group that's here now, some of you are in the Coach 52 platform already. Others might be guests from the outside, and we just thank you for joining us. It was a kind of a special thing we were doing. But in Coach 52, we're going to be gearing up content for it. We're also doing a special group coaching session now that's going to be specific for, and it's going to tie in a lot of the strategies Mark's talked about. It's going to be an 8-week. It's going to be group coaching for the Epic Home Buyer Experience, driven by Adam Boxman, and Listing Domination, driven by my side. And it's going to be an 8-week intensive, hour each, 4 weeks of each one. Buyer side, getting buyer agency signed, listing side, Listing Domination. And you can go to the page, it's coach52.com/group coaching. And we're going to get into these strategies where you're actually going to do the work. You're going to have a week in between. We're going to have executable things to do in between. It's a boot camp. The dates are going to be on the site itself. It starts May 6th. We're going to run through June 24th. Have you done before, you know, the July holiday weekend and all that fun stuff. But things that you're going to walk away with that you're going to actually apply to your business. So we're doing this as a special add-on to Coach 52. And while a lot of these strategies might be in the platform, these are going to be group coaching where it's live, ask questions. You're going to come back the week after with things done, and we're going to kind of hold people accountable to get their buyer side and seller side together and ramp that baby up. So if you want to check it out, coach52.com. It's first day we're launching it. Starts in 30 days. It's really inexpensive. We wanted to do it at scale. I want to say inexpensive is like 190, less than $200 for 8 weeks, by 2 different coaches, and walking away with actionable things to do. So we're going to be setting that up. And for those who are not in Coach 52 at all, give us a check, reach out, we'll give you a demo. So let's see, a few people commenting. Oh, Jennifer put the group coaching in the platform. A few direct messages to me. Some people saying market's a little bit different in certain areas, but maybe need some coaching for sure. Hey, look, there are pocket markets. I mean, not all places are always the same. Like there's some pockets also in Florida that right now have a little bit of inventory issues right now where there's more homes on the market than they should. The bottom line is, I don't care how many years you've been in this business. To me, there's times when I say I've been in 36 years that maybe that's not a good thing anymore. Like, experience is great. However, if I'm back in production and I am not sharpening up my skills, my presentation skills, my value, what I put in front of a homeowner, and somebody else does a better job, my 36 years goes out the window. Because there are people that can compete at a higher level, because not just because they're more savvy, they're delivering to the consumer what they want and how they want it. And that's where we tend to forget, giving people what they want and how they want it. So from a listing and a buy side, we always have to sharpen our skills because people are always getting better. They're getting coached and they're leveling up, and we got to be prepared to compete with them at any level, right? I don't care if the check is a $5,000 check or $50,000 check. I didn't like to lose any of them, right? Don't like to lose. So our job is to help you compete at any high level you want, because we've performed at high levels. We coach high levels, but also if you're a beginner and you're intimidated, we can get you there too. You got to start somewhere, because even that top producer that's in your market, and maybe it's you on this call, but everyone started somewhere with zero. Everyone. So your rock stars of today started with zero somewhere. They just listened, they adopted, they got trained, they got coached, and they did and replicated what top producers are doing, kind of what Mark showed you today. These are the things he did that took him to #2 in condo sales and all. That's a huge market there. You can't even imagine the competition in that space. So that's what we can advise you to do. Take advantage of it. Highnote's a great platform. It's affordable, inexpensive, and there's probably 20 other things you could do with it. If you're a broker, you can use it for, marketing to potential new agents, for recruiting. But this was just focused on sellers today. The buyer side is going to be another whole buyer consult. But in general, if we can help you, we're not going to offer group coaching more hands-on, one level above the Coach 52 platform to really get hands-on and get you guys to do the actual work, right? So on that note, I think it's a wrap, Mark. I thank you for your time today. They got all the downloads from you as much as possible.
Cool.
And appreciate your time for sure. This will be recorded. It'll be in our library for Coach 52. And for those that did attend, we'll get a copy of this as well. Being our guest today, we'll make sure you do get that from your registration. Thanks for spending time with us, and let's stay productive.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Really enjoyed it.
Sir, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye. See you.
Bye-bye.